Paltrocast.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you for taking the time. The Binder family fans over here. So thank you very much for taking the time. And your new film, when did you actually wrap and lock and finish it?
So it was a while ago. We wrapped. We wrapped summer of 2021.
Hmm.
Right. So it's been a while, and we locked it just after the summer of 2022. So it took about a year to, it was kind of a slow burn. Um, and we it released just after the summer of 2023. So it was kind of everything worked in 1 year intervals.
Right. Now, this is not the only project of yours that I've seen. The Bob Saget tribute was fantastic, the Bill Burr
Thank you.
special, etc. It seems like your work is not coming out in the order of you completing it.
No, no, no. That was all that both those things were shot after this. So this was kind of again like while I was working on those things, I was working on this kind of in the background and kind of doing what I could to get this kind of completed in a lot of ways it was because of those things that I was able to have the relationships and the kind of know what to do. And Aaron Champion Turf post-production services was the post-production services on both of those projects, and they were also the post-production service on this movie. So there was a lot of like they were very generous, and they were very helpful, and they're great.
In terms of the big lag between finishing it and it coming out, I don't think the average person is aware that sometimes it's music clearances, sometimes it's distributors knowing better than you and going, "Oh, you can't open up a film that's funny and dramatic in June." You get all these kinds of rules. In the case of this project, what was the holdup between the lag? Was it financing, locking the music, distributor, re-editing, etc.?
Right. So again, when you're making a movie with this kind of budget, you're operating on the kindness of strangers. You're operating on a lot of, people's that are very passionate and want to work on the project, but they also have, this isn't how any of them are gonna pay their rent, their mortgages
Right.
and stuff. So a lot of times this is not this is going to be the thing that the people that are involved will work on the weekends or on things like that. So if something takes 4 months but they can only work on it on the weekends, it might take a year. So it's like so a lot of the delay was the initial editing. I think it took about over 6 months, maybe 8 months, something like that, like to get like the cut that was locked, and then after that it was the color correction and score. We had Alan Blickel and Josh Reiner did the score, and that was amazing. That took that it all of this stuff kind of is going to take time, and so it was, a lot of that was like again I think it generally takes about that time. From what I've talked to other people and who've made films, and that seems to be kind of standard. Unless you're working at a level where you have a release date set before
Right.
like you even start shooting, and it's like and then once we got distribution, once it was done, we submitted to festivals. That's probably something you know I didn't know, and now I know. I waited until the film was like locked to even submit to festivals, which is part of why it took so long. Usually, again, another thing I learned is you kind of do that when you have a cut, before you color correct and
Yeah.
all that, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of like so that took a while, and then by the time we got into festivals and distribution, that was a year, and then once we got distribution, they, like you said, they have their windows where they release films. So it was about 4 months after, we signed, that they actually released the movie. So it was, yeah, but I'd say it was completed and done for about a year before it was released. But
Yes. Speaking to your versatility, sorry to rudely interrupt you right there.
no,
This
not at all.
project has nothing to do with the Burr film, which is it's a comedy special, but it has rock and roll live performance elements to the way that you direct. That's
Right.
compliments to you. And then the Saget special, which did have musical elements, but is sort of documentary, sort of live performance with stand up, sort of a heartfelt thing. The things that you've worked on very different from one another. So when you got into directing, what was it that you wanted to do? Some people go, I want to direct comedies because I love Airplane. And then other people go, I only want to do documentaries, or I only want to do dramas. But again, in a good way, you're skilled at different things, Burt.
I appreciate that. Well, when it was time to move up to directing, or my turn, the truth is, I wasn't going to direct this movie. I was going to write it and play the role I played, and I thought that was kind of what I wanted to do. I never really had. I mean, I thought one day I'd direct, but I wasn't. That wasn't kind of like I gotta be a director.
Right.
And we kind of had everything scheduled. We had another director, and that person had a show picked up, and it was like this amazing opportunity. They had to, you had to do it, and so it was kind of, the options were either like we had everything kind of lined up, and it was one of those situations where like we could reschedule, but it would be kind of an indefinitely postponed. Like it'd be TBD. Like it might never come together again.
Right.
So it was kind of like either I stepped in and direct, which I didn't really know how to do, or we reschedule with the very likely possibility that it never happens. So, and again, like, it's funny because at the time I was like, I don't want to direct, but then once I got into, post production, and I like got into like choices like the timing of the edit, because it's comedy, so it's the timing is so important.
Mhm.
And things like musical choices, like you were talking about, and just sitting there with the composers and like coming up, making decisions about the score. Like I can't imagine. Like I cut the trailer to this. Like I can't imagine not having the control that I had. And it's like, I don't know what that says about me, but
I think that says you're a binder.
I think that's the case. I think it says I'm a binder. I didn't think that was who I was. I got into acting, because I like the idea of giving up control. I like the idea of that the choices aren't mine. You know what I mean? Like I have my role, but in the grand scheme of things, it's about giving control up to the director. And so when I am the director, that kind of goes against everything that I kind of trained kind of learned as an actor. So
yeah, you're a team player as the actor, and you go, what do you need me to do? And then as the
right.
actor, you're telling them what to do. I think that's what you're saying.
Right. So it's kind of, and again, it gets a little schizophrenic because I'm talking to myself. I'm like, what do I need? Well, I need this. Okay, well, let me do it.
Sure.
And but I again, like I said, like when I thought about directing before, I thought about principal production on set, telling everybody what to do. And that wasn't really what I was interested in. I wanted to be an actor who had somebody, kind of tell them. And I didn't really feel like the director on set, like I really felt like, in a good way. Like I felt like it was kind of a team effort, and it really kind of, but what I didn't think about directing, and again, this sounds obvious, is just like the year after. It was like, that was when I was like, thank God I'm directing this, because it was so much fun, working with, Aaron and his people, and Gotham, the director, I mean, the editor,
Mhm.
and the composers, and just getting to do that. Like that would have been something that I never would have I would never have experienced. Like I would just be like, all right, I'll see you guys. Like let me know when you screen the movie.
Right.
Um, so I just again, like I think now I've fallen in love with directing, and I loved it. I can't wait to do it again, but
Great
that's
to
just,
hear.
it's
Well,
shocking.
well,
I just had no idea.
two questions for you, and then I let you go. And the first one is, are we allowed to know what's coming next from you as an actor or director?
Right. Well, as an actor, uh, you know, if you're listening to this, like I'm up for anything. As a director, I do have a movie that I have two that I'm trying to, kind of push up the hill. And one's very similar, not similar in concept, but
Hmm.
similar in like it would feel like a natural progression, like comedy. It's a comedic thriller about, someone taken hostage by a group of like inept, bank robbers, and it's kind of, it's funny. It's like it's sort of like, again, I love westerns, so like this was me kind of having fun with the western characters I love, and this is now I get to do it with inept bank robbers, which are another kind of movie staple that I love.
Hmm.
And so this is kind of my chance to do that. Then the other movie is it's very different. It's a very like earnest boxing movie, kind of like Gone Baby Gone or something like that. Like that's what and it's very different. And so that would be, I think that's one that I really do want to make, but I'm also worried that people who see this movie and then see that movie go, I don't get it. It's not funny, you know. but but
Well, that speaks to your versatility at this point in time. That we don't necessarily know the genre, how funny it's going to be, but we know that it's going to be heartfelt and well crafted when you're attached to it, right?
I hope. I mean, I hope. I think that's kind of right. Like I think you hit the nail on the head. Like that's kind of like when I write or when I want to do a project, like I just want people to feel something, like or just like have a like good time, like if I can get people like, I have such a hard time like focusing or paying attention or just committing to something that if I can get like if someone's like, yeah, I couldn't stop watching your movie or that flew by, you know what I mean? Like that would
Sure.
be that's what I love. Just if I can just tell like a story that people connect to,
Well,
in any genre. I've said, recently someone asked me what my goal is, and I said, and I think I want to make a movie in every genre. Um, which would be nice. Like all the major ones, when you get into subgenres, I think that's a little bit of a high
we're
bar.
a student of the craft. And well, last question before I let you go. I don't know if this is going to get a no answer or something longer. Now, being a big fan of your father's work, I loved Mind of the Married Man and Sex Monster and Reign Over Me, all that kind of stuff. But one of the cool things that your father did was understudy for Andy Kaufman
Yeah,
on
yeah, I'm taxi.
Taxi. And I've not seen a lot written about that. I'm curious if you ever pumped your dad for Andy Kaufman stories.
Um, I've not not really. From what I've heard about Andy Kaufman from my dad, is he was a nice guy and he was pretty sweet to him. Like I haven't heard like any stories about him playing some crazy practical joke on my dad or
No,
you
I
know
mean to interrupt you, the thing I read is your dad was getting like $1,000 a week to be his stand-in 1970s money at a time where he could really use the money.
right.
So your dad was like, "Yes, easy money to just hang around the set."
Right. That was a time. I hear a lot of stories about like just there was a lot of money being thrown around in Hollywood at that time. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, no. So that was he knew him from the Comedy Store. So they he had known him before. But yeah, so I can't think of any like there's no actual like big story that he's told me, but I did find it interesting that he generally said the guy was like nice to him and easy to work with, which is
It,
like to me that's the most shocking thing you can hear about Andy Kaufman is that he was normal to someone.
he probably was waiting to see, is there a third person in the room? Okay, turn the character on.
Right.
If there's just one-on-one regular dude.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's yeah, exactly. Those are similar to the stories he has about Robin Williams and like just how they're, you know, they how he was just like kind of a normal friend to him, and then like that's what you hear about Robin Williams. He was a different guy when there was people around him, but again, like another guy who apparently, from all stories, was very sweet.
Great to hear that all these years later. But Burt, congrats on this new film, new to us, old to you. Looking forward to what's coming next from you, and just keep up all the great work.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Paltrocast.